Hi, everybody. Rick DiClemente. Welcome to Astrology Unplugged 242. Tonight, we're going to continue in the series I've been doing with people who tell me they're stuck, and I'm trying to help them get unstuck and moving. And we got into Diane for almost 2 hours last week, and the internet went out at my house, which was really intriguing. Then the rest of them all started talking to each other, but it didn't get recorded because I was out. So I have different theories about what that means because I've never been the odd man out before. So I got a lot of different ideas. We want to go back to Diane's chart, but the first thing I want to show you about her chart is this. Right now in the planets, I take my glasses off and I wonder why I'm straining to see. Okay, here's where the planets are right now. Mercury at 24, Mercury retrograde, 24 Libra, Cardinal. Eris, 24 Aries, exactly opposite. T squared of Pluto, 24. 24, 24, 24. Okay, and the moon's at 28, which means that 8 hours ago, there were 4 planets in an exact grand cross with Mercury retrograde. So if you've had a not-so Mercury retrograde type of couple of days, it would be very understandable, and I certainly have. Now, I'm not going to go into this very much, but I certainly don't want to be born at this moment. I just don't. Now, last week I started the chart of Diane. We got well along, and then I got thrown out. And I want to pick back up because I was not done and there was much more to say and we were making headway, but there's so much happening. And to review her chart, I want to bring it back up here and show you. Here's Diane's chart, and she is unmuted as well as I. Okay. In Diane's chart, we talked a lot about the Sun Venus opposite Neptune in the T square to Uranus and Leo. We talked about the Mars opposite the Moon in the T square to Jupiter. We talked about the really strong grand trine in her chart between Pluto and the Sun and Moon, and Pluto, Sun, Venus, Moon. Pluto, Sun, Venus, Moon in a grand trine in fire, which tells me that this woman has been through some very tough times, but you do not hold down Diane. And she ain't gonna go down. She ain't going down. She might be suffering, but she ain't going down. She got so much fire. That's a real blessing, Diane. It's very strong. On the other hand, there may be times when you'd be better off by going down. Sometimes you're so buoyant, sometimes you'd be better off just to go down with it and feel the pain, et cetera, and instead of your natural buoyancy to come back up. I do think that sometimes would help, but I'm not going to try to monitor such a thing. But overall, it's a very powerful grand trine, and it's symbolic of somebody who's very buoyant. Grand trine of fire. Also, somebody with great spiritual strength. Now, back in your chart, I wanted to say this because I had time to review the tape from last week. This T square you have to Uranus and Leo, I would rather see you fail on the side of being a little bit arrogant than to fail on the side of being too timid. Okay, because you got the Sun and Venus opposite Neptune, and that is the ego fight with the non-ego, etc. And the T square goes to Uranus and Leo. But I would rather, in favoring your Aries side, I would rather see you fail on the side of being a little bit more arrogant than to be not. I wanted to get that across last week, and I don't think I did. Now, however, what that T-square does show is sometimes that Sun, Venus, Neptune creates some uncertainty in you, and you're just not sure where you're going. And that Leo is really good for helping you convince yourself that you can do it, you can go forward, and convincing others sometimes. But you have to ride that horse very carefully, because if you're not careful with Leo energy, you end up believing your own lies. And that's fatal. You have to make sure you don't get drawn into that, like Mr. Trump has in his chart. That's why I said in the book that the Leo trap is the deepest of all of them, and it's my opinion. Okay, now several things are happening. And the first thing I wanted to do is look at your parents. So before we came on the air, I just want to get a slight look at mom and dad. Here's the chart of mom, which you have told me that mom was, let's see here, more difficult on you emotionally than your dad was. Well, mom she's a Cancer, but she's sun next to Pluto. Okay, and whenever you see a Cancer sun next to Pluto, as was very common in the 30s and 40s, that's when Pluto was going through 20s, 30s, and 40s. That's when Pluto was going through Cancer. This can be very difficult. And even if she's got a very strong water trine, the reason that this is difficult, I'm not even going to look at the rest of her chart, is because when a Cancer sun is involved with Pluto, you have the possibility, the great possibility of your mother not knowing where she stopped and where you started. I mean, you're actually emotionally just not able to do it. I don't know where I end and where Diane starts. And Diane deserved being a little baby. She deserved to know who in the hell she was. And her mother was not able to do it. And therefore, her mother was dangerous. She was dangerous. And when I say dangerous, it's not intentional, but I think that she had the potential to suck from you instead of you suckling from her. She had the potential to vampire you and get taken with your innocence and draw upon that innocence. There's nobody more innocent in the zodiac than an Aries baby. Nobody. So I'm sure your mother loved you. That's not the case here. The case is that your mother, way before you, her mother, did not raise your mother in an emotionally healthy environment. Now, because of that, and you can go way back, it's real common. Your mother was probably one of two things which Cancer women can be: really good at guilt and manipulation. True or false? Good.
Yeah.
Good. She's pausing. That's a good sign.
Yeah.
Good. I hope I'm wrong.
So
good.
You're right about my mother was not raised in an emotionally healthy environment. Her mother was emotionally unstable. She actually lived with an aunt for a year. She says she felt like she had to take care of her mother.
Okay. Now, was your mother into guilt manipulation? I'm sensing no.
I would say no.
Okay, good. That's really, really good. And I'll hand it to your mother, because most Cancers, when they're troubled with Pluto like that, would really get involved with guilt manipulation to make sure that her needs are met. And that's a really good sign. Okay, so if your mother didn't have the Pluto side to her of guilt manipulation, did she have the side to her that was threatening with a look?
She was critical.
Did she have a look that just looked right through you?
Actually, the way I experienced it was that she emotionally disappeared.
Like okay, that's a little different. That's a little different. Being unavailable is different. Did you feel threatened by her emotionally?
I can't say I did.
Okay, good. That's very good. I'm really glad to hear these things. That's really good. So she checked out because she had to go somewhere to get her emotional needs met. Because that's what Cancer's number one's all about. Where did she go?
I felt like she just was not that, connected to me anymore. I think, that was my fear, is that she'd suddenly like disengage somehow. I think as a kid, I just experienced this. She, suddenly became very remote and cold.
Okay, all right. When did the fear with a Cancer mother is that you're going to be abandoned. Okay, what age were you when you felt that?
Oh, I mean, when I became aware of it, I was still really young.
6, 7?
uh, I think even younger. It's interesting because my mother went back to finish her undergraduate degree when I was 4 years old. So I actually went into daycare when I was 4.
Okay, so she abandoned you at 4. All right, that's what we just want to know, the basic facts, but she didn't use the guilt and manipulation, and that's really good. Now let's look at Dad. You said the dad was friendlier to you, but his temper was really volatile. Well, when I'm looking at his chart here a few minutes ago, what's going to give you there's nobody in the zodiac, maybe besides Scorpio. You don't want to feel the wrath of a Leo who's pissed off. Okay, now he's a Leo, and he's got Mercury and Jupiter there, and he's got the sun opposite Saturn retrograde. Okay, so this is the problem in the chart. The sun opposite Saturn retrograde means he came down on you as if he were a god amongst the clouds and telling you about how you have disrespected him. And it's really that strong. And Leo people, men and women, especially the men, can really sound convincing. And they are really all about being respected. And when they're disrespected, it's like the end of the world. So I don't blame you for being really scared of his temper. Yes. I'm not going to go into him very much, but that's where that's coming from. And also in his chart, we see the Venus and Mars in Playful Gemini. So that's a good thing. The Venus and Mars in Playful Gemini makes him a little more unsteady, but he would be a little bit more playful as long as you were giving him his due. You had to keep giving him the audience that he required. All right. Now, what we see in your chart is remarkable. I'm going to show you. Charts for Diane. There we go. All right. All right. So the thing that's so outrageous about your chart is right now, Pluto is about right here, and it's across from Uranus, and it's making a T-square. See this black triangle? Over the next 3 years, Pluto is going to be opposite Uranus at a right angle to Neptune, at a right angle to these two. Pluto is forming a square. It's filling in the square of this triangle. It'll be more or less right there. Eris is going to be there for the next 20 years. Okay, it's all right. Because Eris moves very slowly. So you're getting hit by Pluto and Eris heavily right now. And Pluto and Eris just hit each other exactly about 3 weeks ago. And that's what put you on this show. That's what put you in the discussion. And you must have felt like, oh my God, the walls are shaking about 3 weeks ago. True or false?
3 weeks ago. That was early September.
Yeah.
I'm not aware of anything.
Okay, let
I've
it
been
be.
feeling stuck for a while.
Okay, well, this is not a feeling of stuck. This is a feeling of the walls shaking. Okay, now, and that's when Rick started getting fanatical about people starting to do what you got to do. Just do it. Okay, maybe it was about 2 months ago. Now, at the same time, Neptune is at 21, and Neptune is opposite Jupiter, which is in an OT square. See it? So Neptune is at 21. It's just past the square to Mars at 20. It's heading towards Jupiter at 23. It's going to square the moon at 24. So you've got Neptune creating a grand cross in your chart. You've got Pluto and Eris creating a grand cross in your chart, the three most powerful planets known to astrology. Now, what it symbolizes to me is that you're not only ready, you're ready. But before we can talk about your readiness to launch, and I'm going to take as much time as I need to really analyze what happened to you clearly. And that's not easy to do, especially on the internet. So what I want to know is, we know now that mom checked out when you're about 4. Couldn't find her. Not available. That's the most common thing I hear in astrology. The parent wasn't available. What do we talk about availability with your father?
Well, he was much more emotionally available for sure, but he was also a minister. So he was very much, early in his career when I was young, and spent a lot of time, at the church. And so I felt like, when he was around, he was usually fun and playful and loving. I'm his only daughter. I'm his first child. I was kind of the apple of his eye, until he got angry.
Daddy's girl. Okay. And when he got angry, what happened?
Oh, he just screamed, and it was often when, I made a mistake.
Okay. When he screamed, what was the result of the screaming?
I guess sometimes I got spanked.
So you're telling me that his screaming was more when you did something wrong as opposed to when he got disrespected?
Yeah, I would say it came out when I did something wrong, but
Okay.
I also know I learned early on, you don't talk back to him. You don't
Okay.
argue
Okay.
with him.
How did your father treat himself when he made a mistake?
That's a good question. My parents were divorced when I was 10, and I didn't live with him. So I don't know him as well as my mother either.
Okay. So when you left him at 10, who did you live with?
My mother.
So just you and your mom, and she wasn't paying any attention. So it was really just you. And when it's just you, it's you in the closet with Neptune. That's what happens. You go in the closet with Neptune and a blanket and a flashlight and a comic book. That's usually what happens to us. So it's very common. All right. Now, did you ever feel growing up that your existence was threatened?
Well, I was going to say, when my dad got really angry with me when I was young, I felt like, I was going to be demolished.
Okay. So
Somehow
there's an actual fear of being killed.
Being annihilated. Yeah.
Okay. That's severe, and that's the most severe it can get. Take a look at your 4th harmonic. Watch this. This is the chart of your emotional upbringing. Okay. And I don't have to say much about it, because you're all going to just gasp as soon as you see it. Okay, this is the emotional charts in your life. And all we got to do is see Saturn's at 25, the midheaven is at 23, Sun is at 24. And where did I tell you all the planets are now? 24 cardinal, 24 cardinal. I'll keep repeating it to you until you learn it. Cardinal, 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 Aries, Libra, Capricorn, Cancer. That's why you learn them in 3 sets of 4. The cardinal planets, Aries, Cancer, Libra, Capricorn. Saturn, Sun. I don't care what the rest of the chart says, even Venus next to Neptune. I don't care what it says. I care about Saturn and the moon and the sun. And this is the main structure of your emotional chart. So what this chart is speaking of is you are being disabled. No. You are being demolished emotionally and being rebuilt. Now, this process has been going on a while. I would say it's been going on five years at least. Just this feeling of no matter what I do, like you go down the steps into the basement and some of the steps aren't there anymore. It's just decaying. You see what I'm saying? This emotional deconstruction. So this is really what has to happen before you reconstruct. And really everything your mom and dad didn't have anything to do with you anyway. You really didn't. Your mom's inability, your dad's temper, they weren't about you. Plus they're playing a role. We haven't got to your past life yet. But do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So what the planets have been doing, as Pluto has been approaching Eris in the past couple of years, and Eris has been sitting there, all these things have been building and coming into play. So what we're seeing is your whole emotional basis, all your life, is starting to become moot. Doesn't matter anymore. It just doesn't matter. Like I say to so many people, You've been through part one of your life. Part two is about to start.
I'll tell you how that shows up for me. I would
Please,
say,
please do.
so I would say the first part of my life, I was, kind of suppressed. I think, we've talked in past shows about how my Aries quality really wasn't strong. And, with my parents getting divorced and about 2 years after the divorce, my mother remarried and we moved to Texas and my dad was still in Pittsburgh, so I didn't see him. The overtone was sadness, depression. I became pretty emotionally numb and feel like for most of my life, I have not been very happy.
Okay, that's understandable. And that's usually pretty rare for Aries because, especially you got so much fire in you. Fire is usually enough. If you didn't have all that fire, who knows how you would be.
Yeah.
Now, what we got to remember here is your past life chart, which is the spiritual transcript chart. And just like typical Aries, you look really young for your age. You just do. Aries and Geminis usually. They just look very young for their age. And that makes a lot of Aries and Gemini women very happy. Even the men look young for their age. So when we go into the 12th harmonic and we start studying the past life transcript, the spiritual transcript in your chart, here's what we saw. We did this last week. Okay. We saw Pluto and the sun opposite Saturn. Okay, so I don't need to do much. I don't fool around. I see the main constructs and I move on. I can sit there and play with my belly button and look at all these different sub symbols and sub aspects and all. But you got the sun and Pluto at Saturn. And I told you what that means. That means growing up through your different lifetimes, in your vision, and when you talk with your angels about coming into this lifetime and you reported on how you felt, you're reviewing neutrally, you're reviewing how you felt about all these different lifetimes. You felt like for some reason, whatever reason, that you had to continue to put the weight of the world on your shoulders. And your dad comes along being a preacher, and I'm sure he helped you deliver that. But that's not an Aries quality. Even Ramdas doesn't have it in a sense, and he was an Aries. But there's a sense coming into this lifetime that for many lifetimes I've been carrying the weight of the world on my shoulders, and if it's wrong, I've got to fix it. Speak to me about what I said. And I like the fact that you're disagreeing with me on certain things, because nothing worse than me talking to people who are just agreeing, without being true. Go ahead.
Well, that would be a good way to characterize how I felt like my early life was. I was just carrying a lot of a burden. And actually what comes to mind is when my parents were getting divorced, I think originally my brother and I were going to stay with my dad, and I went to my brother. I'm like 9 going on 10. He's 14 months younger than me. And I said to him, I don't think mom or dad should be alone. And we kind of quickly decided that he would stay with dad.
They're taking care of the parents.
Uh-huh. And so I went to my dad and said, I love you, but I think I still need to be with my mom, to take care of me. I even, said it in a way so I didn't make him feel bad. And he says that I always had kind of like a wisdom about me. And so he agreed.
That's the Saturn. Your Saturn is very, very strong. That's wonderful.
So yeah.
Terrible at the same time.
Well, yeah, because I ended up losing my brother as well.
Well, what I want to ask you is this. Have you been feeling over the last 20, 15 years that this has been building?
Well,
and when I say building, what I'm saying is that Saturn and Pluto is coming apart. Mm-hmm. That's what Pluto does. That's why the US is in such trouble. Pluto finds corruption, goes down the basement, finds all this termite damage. Oh, hell, it's got to come down. We got to build it if you can. That's what it does. And the US has happened to find it in every institution that we have. And then Eris comes along. So we're in big trouble. All right.
So, yeah, I got divorced about 17 years ago.
You did?
I got divorced. I was in a marriage for almost 20 years. I was unhappy for a lot of it. I got divorced. I went back to school, got my degree in counseling, and I would say life has gradually been getting better since.
What age were you when you went back to school?
46.
Usually it's 42 because Uranus opposite Uranus. Okay, very good, very good. Okay, what I'm telling you now, I have every reason to believe this, and I do think we're at the end of your reading. I have every reason to believe that you're going to be emotionally rebuilt and you're going to be publicly or you're in your job or whatever rebuilt. I think there's absolutely no way anybody's going to stop you in any way. I don't think it's even possible because I think you've been through so much that you're not going to make any room to give anybody the room to even pull their arm back before they punch you. They just don't have a chance because you've just been through too much. Am I right?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, not only do I feel that, but what's even better than that is I feel that you're really at a position now where you see that it's not mom and dad's fault.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, I think this is absolutely just phenomenal. Because these planets that are on you now, with Neptune creating a grand square and Pluto and Eris creating a grand square, these planets would absolutely destroy you. It would just eat you apart, and you would be eaten away in terms of getting cancer or just so much self-hatred and bitterness or maybe crime. I mean, there are many ways it could manifest, but you chose to use them right. And that's really to your credit. It really is. And what I keep telling people, and it seems to fall on deaf ears, when these planets come, is when your power arrives. It's when your power arrives.
Well, that's what it feels like, is that
what it is.
More and more stepping into my power. The thing that I feel stuck about, though, is I don't know what to do with it.
Okay, we're not going to worry about what. We can't put the what to do in front of anybody because that's unknown.
Yeah.
The planets don't tell you you need to do 3 steps to the left and 2 steps forward like a knight on a chessboard. They don't do that. That's not what you need. What you need to do is remove the blockage, and then the way will be shown. I'm going to repeat myself. When I did a lot of workshops with people, it used to be, where's my lover? Where's my boyfriend? That's all been replaced now with where's my direction? Where's my direction? And I'd give all these workshops and nobody would come. And, Colleen can tell you. Then I would give these workshops on life direction with a free mini reading. People come out of nowhere because they need help. And about 70% of the readings I did, people have blockages, and we just merely had to identify the flavor of the blockage. We didn't have to go out with a whole crew and dismantle it all. We just had to identify it, talk about it a little bit, and start making some progress. I wanted to see a little willingness on the client's part to start making progress in that way. And then the big boulder that's out there in the middle of your road, you don't have to get the big boulder all the way out of the way. It's just too much. All you got to do is get it wiggling a little bit. Just get a little wiggling. And once it starts wiggling, the light is behind that boulder. And you start to see, oh, I don't see exactly what I want to do, start my own Johnny Carson show. You don't see exactly what's out there, but you start to see visions of your true self, because your true self has been out there screaming at you for so long. And it's what's put you on this show. So quit badgering it with what do I do, and spend more of a focus on let me do more work. Because the reason why I'm saying is the planets aren't even there yet. They're not there yet. Your destruction, your destruction of the old erection is not even in its pinnacle yet. So you need to be putting your focus on dismantling the old and looking and thinking and just studying. And while you're dismantling the old, God knows what you're doing. And it's going to start constructing. And the two things I've found, well, the one thing I found that's so critical when you start reconstructing is that you don't hold resentment towards the parents. And you don't. So I think you're in great shape. I think you're on your way. And I think you need to just quit worrying so much about what form it's going to take, because at least whatever form it's going to take is going to involve the real you. And it didn't in the past. It didn't. It involved the you that you had to use to get by. So I got nothing else to say, Diane. I really don't. I mean, I feel really good about it. I'm here if you need to talk personally anytime, but you're being validated. Now, one of the things that's hard about where you're at is that the whole damn planet is insane right now. The United States has lost its mind. The United States has lost its mind. I told you that 5 years ago. We just have, because we got so many, we put all the chess pieces on the wrong square before the damn game started. Anyhow, what I'm saying about that is you're going to get some curveballs from the planets, because with the big outer planets like Pluto and Eris, you're going to pick up some karmic issues for the collective, and everybody's different. So keep doing your work. You're right on track. You should feel really good about being validated, because you're right on track. And as far as I'm concerned, you're clearing away from your shackles of the past lives. You're clearing away from all that fourth house stuff. And the main thing that you need to get clear of, and this ain't easy, is this sense that you got to put the world on your back. See, that's all based in Christian guilt. So based in Christian guilt. He died for you and you should feel like crap. I didn't. It's not how it happened. So what happened? And you don't have any particular thing that you owe the world other than your own happiness, your own growth, and your own work with your clients. I don't have anything else to say. I think you know exactly what I'm saying. So what's your conclusion?
It's interesting because I do have remnants still of being hard on myself,
Yeah.
Feeling like I'm not doing enough. So it's just reassuring to get that validation. And I felt a little out of sync with the world, because I feel like I'm in such a good place, and I'm going in a good direction. And I'm also excited about the transformation that I think is coming, even though everything's falling apart right now.
It is coming on one level, and another level it's falling apart, and that's true. And we've never experienced this in the country. You know, people keep asking me, when are we going back to normal? And I just laugh. It's hysterically. Liza and I suggested last year that we got another 20 to 50 years before we can even start using the word normal again. That's our guess. Our guess. 20 to 50 years.
Yeah.
But you're in good shape and you're going to be called upon. And like so many people I work with, you're going to be called upon to become a meta teacher. You're not going to be doing the one-on-one psychology with clients. You're going to be teaching the other psychologists.
Yeah, that's kind of what I feel is like, you know, I'm moving into something new. It seemed, I almost like get visions of me on some stage or something.
That's exactly right. And that's right. And the thing I'm telling you is this is not a myth. This power is, this is not like anything we've ever seen. And your chart is really getting hit hard. And that it means that this statement of your power is here could be multiplied by 50. So go out, have fun, have confidence, use that Aries instinct to just go and go do it, because you have a lot of support from behind you and you need to really see that. Okay.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much. And I will remember to not put that world on my back.
Yeah. You just keep at it. It takes several times, but good luck to you, dear.
All right. Thank you so much.
You are certainly welcome, Diane. Okay, let's look to the very patient Teresa. And I've asked you to unmute yourself. And I hope you all followed that. You're asked, there you go. I hope we'll let Diane get a drink of water, cool off. And we'll look at Teresa's chart, who I studied earlier today. And intriguing. I will tell you honestly, there are very few people getting hit as hard as Diane is and being as successful as she is. Because a lot of times when these pressures are on you, you just feel like strangling somebody. Have you been talking to people recently? People are looking at each other like, what the hell's going on? And, you know, they don't understand it. They don't have a frame of reference. Well, they want to go back to their high school civics. There's no frame of reference because we don't have enough true astrology in the world. Teresa with the John Kay sunglasses. Do you know who he is?
No.
The lead singer for Steppenwolf.
Oh.
You look just like him with those glasses on. I like to ride right across my
They help my eyes when I'm looking at the computer a lot.
Well, I don't blame you one bit. Here's Teresa's chart, 1952. I have good friends born in October of 52, so their planets are very much like yours. The first thing we want to look for is where's Saturn, Neptune, because in late 52 and 51, 52, the Saturn Neptune was crawling along together, which is one reason that the hippie movement was kind of unsettling and the norms were changing because Saturn and Neptune were in Libra. And you had bell-bottom pants and you had unisex things and unisex stores. And that whole theory started coming out that the man and the woman aren't as different as they seem. It was because of the very confusing Saturn Neptune, and yours are only 2 degrees apart. I got a buddy with his sun right in between them. His sun is right between the two. And boy, he doesn't always translate it real well because Libras get their definition from their sounding board and from bouncing their identity off of the people that are in their lives. They're very social people. What do you do for a living?
At which point in my life I was
Just in general, I wanted just a quick general statement.
Well, I went back to school at 38 after my divorce and finished up my bachelor's and master's in psychology.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
Good.
but I was
You-
a legal secretary,
Okay.
inhalation therapy technician, aircraft mechanic in the Air Force.
Oh,
I was a landlady for 20 some years.
okay, so you've done a lot of things. Now, you have significant Scorpio in you, Mercury in Scorpio, Moon in Scorpio, Venus in Scorpio. So you're very passionate. You're not just pleasant. And let's go pick out some nice pastels, honey. You're very passionate about deeply emotionally shared relationships. Okay, we also see at the top of your chart, Uranus is very strong because of its proximity to the midheaven. That's 9 degrees away. So we see strong Aquarian traits, which are really good for Libras because Libras can be too dependent upon the state of the relationship and not enough strength individually. This really can help you. The fact that this is 9, 10 degrees around age 8, this line connected with, if you use what's called the solar arcs, and we move this line 1 year per year of life, 1 degree per year of life, it ended up hitting this Uranus at age 8. So at age 8, you had a very premature early liberation. Like you were doing things that other kids weren't allowed to do. What happened to you around age 8?
I don't know.
Give it some thought, but this is very strong, very liberating. You also could have had some real surprises, like the family picked up and moved real quickly. Sudden shock, maybe age 8, age 9. But we're seeing a very telling, important turning point at age 8. Keep your mind on that. Here's a T square. It's a little crooked. So Mercury's 14, Jupiter's 18. The T square goes to 22. And that means it's not real exact. So that T square is just not really, really powerful like those exact 24, 24, 24s that we saw. This is 14, 18, 22. Some wiggle room in there, which is good. Let you breathe. What does it mean? It means that you have a very intense mind, the mind of a psychologist, digging deep, opposite Jupiter. This tells me that you go into the occult or you go into the mysteries of the world. The 8th house is the dark cave. And you go into it, hop, skipping, and jumping and whistling. You're not worried about it. And a lot of people walk into the 8th house with great trepidation and shaking. That famous psalm of the Bible about, Lord, go with me, and whatever the psalm was, Psalm 23, I think. The Lord walks beside me through the valley of death.
Yeah.
Well, you're the opposite. This is somebody whistling past the graveyard.
Yeah. I wasn't afraid to hop in a car and drive across country by myself.
Well, this is the Jupiter doing it. And notice here, this is almost a bucket pattern. Get a big bucket and Jupiter's a handle. It's not quite. And we could also argue that the bucket pattern is the Eris. We don't know. But the Eris is extremely powerful because it's 1 degree from the descendant. It's less than a degree. So when you're real Arisian, like you are, because of Eris on the angle here, then that gives you the disruptive part, the little bit of a rebel in you. You'll disrupt things if you have to. Libras don't like making scenes. They like being really cool and everybody's placid and even tempered. Not you with this planet. You will raise hell if you got to raise hell because it ain't fair or it ain't just.
Right.
Okay. Now we'll find out as we keep reading why you're getting this reading. We don't know why. We saw why in Diane's chart because her 2 grand crosses are getting dismantled and she's being freed emotionally and she's being freed from the past life, the heavy albatrosses around her neck. In this chart, we see the sun, Saturn, Neptune. The sun is 6 degrees from Neptune. We don't like that, but it's better than if it was 1 or 2 degrees. Because when it's 6 degrees away, you've already got an issue. Libras already have issues with identity crisis because they're made to get their identity through their partner. And when you have 3 planets in Scorpio and 3 in Libra, that's 6 planets involved in my identity comes to my partner. Well, what happens if your partner gets up and leaves? He's got all the marbles in his pocket. You're in trouble. So that's the problem I wrote about in the book about having too much Libra Scorpio. But at your age now, you're finally getting to the stage where you're most certainly not overly concerned about the status of relationships. But there was a time where it just killed you. That's just, huh?
It almost did.
Yeah, well, that's because you didn't have an astrologer back then. To be honest, Libra's a tough energy. You got Libra rising. Venus is the ruler of your chart. Your Venus is where my Venus is. Same degree. So we'll be very fond of each other. Mine's at 28, yours at 29. That means you're very passionate. And look at it, it's square to Pluto. Your Venus and your Moon, which are your two emotional planets, are in Scorpio and they're square to Pluto. So that means that you tend to be overly emotional. Well, what that means is when a Scorpio flavor gets involved, it becomes you love it or you hate it. You love it or you hate it. That's not a Libra trait. Libra's taking easy. You might like it, you might not like it. That's Libra, not you. So you got this love it, hate it flavor going on here. We don't know what that's about, but we're using a pencil, right? We're using a pencil. We know you're very Uranian. We know you're very passionate. And you got a T-square to Pluto. So the Pluto is emphasized by itself. And we know you're very Arisian. Okay, we look down at the bottom. Here we find a very strong Mars Chiron on the nadir. Chiron on the nadir, and it's in Capricorn. I have found my Chiron is, we're born so close together. I found people with Chiron and Capricorn are obsessed about where that Chiron is placed. They're just obsessed with that house. They just are. They can't shake it. And yours is right on the nadir. And the nadir is your family, it's your background, it's your roots, it's your traditions. And the Libra Scorpio is not about that, but you are. You're obsessed with the traditions, the past lineage, the family. Where did I come from? What kind of things do we want to correct in our heritage, etc. This whole thing about looking up the family, where did we come from, and all that. You should be obsessed with that because of that Chiron placement.
I am very much so. I went to Slovakia to meet my relatives that my mother never met, my dad never met, my grandparents didn't go back.
Wonderful.
Yeah, I went back to meet my Slovak relatives on both sides of the family.
Okay, now astrologically, I've thought a lot about this. You went back and that would help you on the physical plane. And Libras are very social animals. So I think it did a lot of interesting things about Slovenia and America and all those things to you. But this is deeper than that. Okay? In astrology, what this really means is when you're digging back for your roots, you're digging back for your roots.
Yeah.
You're digging back to where I come from. And there's no doubt at this time that this is the proper time to take a look at your 12th harmonic. Okay, let's go back to your birth chart once more. All right. What are the questions we want to carry with us as we address the past life chart? We want to address why the sun is near Neptune. Why so much, you are a double Libra. Why so much planets in relationship signs? Why the Capricorn so heavy? Why are you so Arisian? This means you're about to raise hell with somebody or a bunch of people. And
I
it means also that you need to do it.
I usually do.
Well, you need to, because now is the time. Now is the time. Eris is, I told you, you got to get off your pony now and get on your thoroughbred. Okay. Well, now it's you got to get off the pony, off the thoroughbred, and onto the super horse. Why do you think we're having all these repetitive movies about these superheroes with superpowers? It's not just because they're ahead at the box office. It's because it's symbolic of us reaching deeper and finding more superpowers within us, I think. Now let's go to your 12th harmonic. All right, we go in here and we see, there's Teresa, there's the 12th. Okay, what do we see? Sun and moon are together in the 8th house in Pisces with Venus. 3 planets in Pisces. Very nice, very nice. But this gives you a Scorpio flavor once again, because it's in the 8th house. Okay, here we come down, a triplicate. 3 planets in Scorpio. Here we come into this really mysterious 12th house. And what do we see hiding there? 29 degrees Eris, 2 degrees Chiron. So this is like a secret little magic bag that you keep hidden. You got your little secret leather bag with your little goodies in there. And I really think you keep it very private, because notice that these 3 planets are opposite 2 planets here. This is somebody who I would say you have shamanistic ability. I really do. And I've met some shamans recently, and they're very intriguing people. And I really think it's something you might want to explore, at least read about. But I think when you talk about shamans, you talk about people who can transcend the physical plane, either through mental exchange or through material exchange or whatever. But I think this is very symbolic that you have been kind of a medicine woman of your tribe or something like that. I don't want to get too defined about it. What do we see this? Right opposite Pluto. This ain't no picnic. This is super medicine woman. This is for a long time. So this is somebody who's been searching for the Holy Grail for many, many lifetimes, searching for the magic of alchemy for many lifetimes. And, they could talk about all they want to talk about. And then you asked me earlier in the show why I'm taking the TTC course from Nick Sanchez. That's what alchemy is. It's you transforming from the little you to the big you. Yeah. And you can go on into all these mysteries and read all these books about the starseed children. Ooh, all this stuff like the book I just finished. But the transition that John talks about, the transformation, is about the transformation like the Bible talks about, from the small Teresa to the big one. And that big one is the God one. I don't need to get into this with you, but your chart's obsessed with this kind of deep transformation. So it would become very clear to me right away that that's what this reading's about. It's about, we're in the middle of this huge transformation, which is not a Libra thing at all and is very Scorpionic. First of all, you're not ready. First of all, Libra people don't do these kinds of shows. The only time that you find a Libra doing these shows is when they have a strong Neptune, which you do. Sun next to Neptune. Libras are interested in their social appearance, their social clothes, their social country club, their social stature. They don't care what's going on beyond Pleiades, but your chart does, because you're a searcher. Now, what's happening? One second here. I want to make a note to self for the end of the show. All right, good. Hold on. All right, so when we look at the 12th harmonic, what do we see? We see a kind of a medicine woman. I'm just using that phrase, using it lightly, a shamanistic type of person with these 3 planets in Scorpio, and there's tremendous power all being pushed through Mercury and Virgo. And it's in the 3rd house. This is no light story. This means you are a teacher of how to do it. You are a writer of manuals of how to do it. Huh? Mercury and Virgo is, no, put your left hand on your right hand when you do that. No, twist it this way, but that's right, not that way, this way. That's real important. The Virgo teaching technique. The Virgos are the one writing all the how-to books. Well, what's the how-to all about? How to do what? And the answer is how to transform, because you've got a beautiful triad right here. Sun, moon, Venus in Pisces. This is all about you. You got here's what I think is happening in your chart. I think through all your past lives, you've learned a great deal. You've learned even to the point of being a teacher, even to the point of being a medicine woman, a shaman, etc. But you finally figured out to put the sun, moon, and Venus up in the upper right-hand corner in Pisces. And what that means is I'm not going to get hung up on my personal power. I'm not going to get hung up on my Libra position. I'm going to put my interest in transcending myself towards God's love.
Exactly.
That's exactly what this chart's about. You're transcending towards God's love. And therefore, we need to follow what planet right now?
I don't know.
Neptune.
Neptune.
So let's take a look at Neptune. And where is Neptune? Neptune is a 21 of Pisces. So Neptune in the past 10 years has been all over these planets. And at a very deep unconscious level in the past 10 years, at a very deep unconscious level, you have been going through all kinds of transition where you've been letting go of your worldly desires, letting go of the Libra lies, letting go of, boy, if I get a social position ahead of her, I'm going to be better off. Where other Libras will believe it, you won't believe it, because you're learning about what really matters, which is your godly state, or whatever word you want to use. Let me stop right there and get a reaction from you.
Well, where do you want me to start? Because if we start from the beginning, I'm definitely a rebel. Even in the Air Force, I had a case against my squadron commander and had to go to the 4-star IG Inspector General on an EOC case, and I won the case.
I don't know what an EOC means.
Equal Opportunity Center in 1974.
Okay, what matters here is how and when did this spiritual transition start in you?
Well, since I've been born, I think. But
Okay, being the radical.
More. The past 10 years, it's getting more and more and more.
Okay, the radical military person and the radical spiritual warrior are 2 different people. Okay, and you're exactly right. Since Neptune, I can't remember the year, Neptune has been in Pisces about 10 years, and it's really been knocking your planets off one at a time, and you've been absorbing the spiritual lessons, and that's really, really good. What is your status of relationships at this time?
With other people?
Yeah, are you with somebody or not, or married, or?
I've had 3 husbands.
Okay, it's very common for Libras,
So,
but you don't at the moment.
no, I have a real good friend relationship right
Okay,
now.
you got a good friend relationship. This person is what sign?
He's Capricorn.
Oh, he's a Capricorn. So he has come representing Saturn to you recently. All right. So let's go take a look at this chart. So when we look in the past life chart, we see that Neptune has hit these 3 planets. It's going to hit the Mars. It has hit the Neptune. It's going to hit these 2, and then it's going to hit this one. So you're in through this tremendous, as Neptune goes through here over the next 10 years, approaching the top of your chart, it's going to hit all 5 of these planets, including this one. That's 6. So you're in for a tremendous shifting of spiritual interest. Now, secondly, you're going to have to start dealing with that radical, disruptive Eris of yours, because Eris is not a real good planet to talk about when you talk about spiritual refinement. And Neptune's all about refinement. I want smoother clothes, smoother colors, smoother music, smoother opera, smoother whatever. Neptune is about getting refined. So what we're going to be seeing here over the next several years is you're going to see that Eris part of you, which is always ready to kick butt and fight. And it's really been good for you to do that. But it's going to start getting replaced by allowing. That's the big theme in your chart. That's the big theme that America needs to learn is instead of fighting, allow.
Yeah.
Fighting to get what you want, allow it to happen. It's already coming. That's a major, major turning point. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I had a great grandfather in Slovakia who was a shaman in the small town of Lashkovce, and he would put together herbs and everything, and he was like the town doctor and would heal people and animals and all that. And I've been interested in things like that since I was a kid.
Well, what's keeping you from it now?
I don't know. That's where I'm stuck. I'm really stuck.
Okay,
I don't know where to begin.
Okay, let's investigate this overly used word called stuck. What do you mean you're stuck?
I don't know where. The problem with me all my life is that I've had so many interests. I wanted to do everything. And you can see I've just about done everything. And I've had so many different jobs. I've done so many different things. I don't stick with one thing very long, except I was a landlady for 22 years. That was the longest I did anything.
Okay, now let's talk about this for a minute. Okay. In your birth chart, we do not see, yes, we do see a strong Jupiter. We see a very strong Jupiter. And that's why you do come across with some rather Sagittarian energies. Now, when Jupiter's involved, you have to treat the personality totally different than anybody else, because Jupiter or Sagittarian people are the ones in the registrar's office every other day changing their major. And it's because it's very simple. It's because they want to.
Yeah.
Then they're the ones that say, why not? They're the ones that say, I want 3 boyfriends at once. Why not? That's just Jupiter Jovian energy.
Yeah.
Now, it's hard to satisfy. It's hard to rationalize and work it out to a productive end because most boyfriends aren't going to put up with it.
Or husbands.
Or anybody's. But you got to decide how much that's worth to you. Jupiter people need to explore. They need to explore. And they need, if you talk to almost any Sagittarian, they read books feverishly. What about? They don't care what it's about. Just they can read. They want to travel. Where are you going to go? I don't care. I just want to go. That's a Jupiter tradition. It's a Jupiter trait. But you got to watch Jupiter, or else it becomes wasteful and it becomes scattered too thin and it becomes hard to satisfy these Scorpio planets in you, which want to take a good solid bite out of something. Well, you don't stay around long enough to chew because you're busy moving around. Now, that's not a blame. That's something you got to work out. So, well, where's this coming from? Because everything comes from the past life. Everything. So let's go back and take a look and see what we find. In Teresa's past life. All right. These are very mutable planets in Gemini. These are really mutable planets in Pisces. There's a T-square to Mercury. Okay. One of the main things I see from your past life chart, and this is going to be affected soon, probably 2 years from now, when Neptune gets to 29, it's going to have it out with this very important Mercury in Virgo, because the Mercury in Virgo is telling you throughout your past lives that you've got to do this exactly this way, and that's it. This is also coming from the woman who says just do what you want, but you got to do all these things exactly right, but do what you want. So what gives here? Do you see what's happening? You got this dictator, this charge upon you that you've got to do this right and say the rosaries just right and do the novenas just right and do all that just right and make these plants and do these shamanistic medicine elixirs just right. It's got to be perfect. But then the Sag party, you said, oh, what the hell? I'm going to go across the hill. I heard they're doing this today. I'm going to go over there. Let's see what they're doing. So how do we resolve this? See what I'm saying? And I'll bet you we're talking about your two main pillars. The main pillars of your personality. This whimsical, I want to just do my thing and have fun. And this other part that's very serious and steadfast and defined. They're both there. Is that true, or does that sound too simplified?
Me. Yeah, that's me.
Okay. Plus, you got to remember, for you astrology people out there, Libra people are not made to make decisions. They're just not made to do it. They're made to tell you if you go this way, but however, if you go that way, but if you go here, and on the other hand, that's what they're good at. But they're not made to make decisions. Okay, so we got to really take our zoom lens and zoom way out to try to assuage this stuff. Because you got all this Jupiter stuff, but you got all the Virgo stuff. First of all, what you got to do, in my experience, this is not easy, you got to have a talk with the Virgo part of you, that they're not going to get everything right. It's not going to always be right by the book. You're going to offend some rule in yourself, and you're going to, right when you're feeling guilty about offending him, that's when you need to bring your Jupiter in and say, hey, what the heck? It's not that big of a deal. And you're exactly right. One of the best things that's happened to me in the past 7 years is I've studied a lot of David Hawkins, the philosopher who just died, and he wrote about 9 books, including The Power versus Force. And I watch a lot of his wonderful videos on YouTube. But one of the great things he did, being a psychologist, psychiatrist in New York City for 50 years. One of the great things he does in his videos is he gets himself into this position because he's attained enlightenment at an early age, but he worked hard for it. But he starts to feel real bad about something he screwed up, and he goes, and he just lets it go. Oh, I said the wrong thing. Oh, said the wrong thing. Oh, said the wrong thing. Oh, and he just lets it go. And it just shows you what we do to ourselves when we say the wrong thing. We do the wrong thing. We'll get out the hammers, And he just has helped me so much. He comes into my brain when I start to get rigid and self-punitive. And I go, what the hell? What the hell? It's not that big of a deal. Now, on the other hand, we got to talk this through. This is not simple. On the other hand, you do have this really powerful Jupiter. And even though it's in Taurus, it's still Jupiter. And it's opposite Mercury and it's retrograde. And the Jupiter just wants to go do what it wants to do. I want to do what I want to do. I want to date 3 people. I want to have 3 types of suppers tonight. I want to have dessert before supper. It's based on fun.
Yeah.
That's what Jupiter's based on. I've been studying a lot, and it's the next one on my plate now to learn more about Sagittarius because it's a really difficult sign to understand because it's just so different than Capricorn. So Jupiter, replace the word Jupiter with the word fun. Okay? So you have a lot of fun interests. So how can you appease this big part of you that wants to have fun with this other part of you wants to do everything damn right? Just get it straight. The answer, in my opinion, is there's no way you can answer that. You're not ready to merge those energies yet. I don't see it. The next lifetime, you probably will. But it looks to me like you came into this lifetime playing 2 different hands on purpose. Well, I'll have so much fun that if the uptight part of me gets too uptight, I'm having fun. And I'll have so much skill that if this thing gets too spaced out, I'll come back to my talented part. So you've got both. And I'll bet you find in your life, there's this tendency to have 2 available outs at all time. I bet you do. There's 2 available outs at all time. If this gets too much, I'll go that way. If that gets too much, I'll go this way. And that's really pretty clever, isn't it?
Maybe more than 2.
Okay. Very good. So it sounds to me, it really sounds to me after doing quite a few of these things, that what has to happen here is you need to give it up. That you're not going to figure this out. And if I could do anything to all of your brains, I would go in all your brains and pull out the word figure out of your brain because you can't figure out anything. It's not possible. You can't figure out anything. You've never figured out anything. It just happens. Things happen. You evolve through it, into it. So what I think you need to do with this, look how these 2 bookends have been highlighted tonight. I didn't expect this. And I think you need to give them up because they're all going to melt in the sea of all those 3 beautiful Pisces planets. Because Pisces planets are based upon one statement. Nothing matters. Can't get too uptight about it, Virgo, because nothing matters. You're worried about how you're not having enough fun, Sagittarius? Don't worry about it. Nothing matters. So it's not a simple solution, but through experience, I know you're going to have to keep the Sag part of you satisfied, give it enough fun. You're going to need to give that Virgo part of you enough discipline and skill sets to keep it happy. And if I were you, I would definitely start looking into shamanism of some type, because I think you're really built for it. And I think that the society is changing. So what are you thinking about doing?
Well, I've always been interested in the healing arts, always. And I just don't know in which direction to go with that. I guess that's where I'm stuck.
Well, you sound like the last 9,000 readings I've done. There's nobody that can pick the direction. Nobody can pick the direction. But as I'm going to repeat for you, okay? You cannot see the direction. Matter of fact, I never finished my story. The 70% of the people I told you who had blockages, you identify the blockage, you start to work on it, have willingness to work on it, and it starts to move by itself. The other 30% are people that know where they're going, they just go. Okay? You don't have significant enough Neptune to be that confused. The only people that get away with, I don't know what I want to do, are people with significant Neptunes, and they just don't know. That's not you. The reason you don't know where you want to go yet is you're not there yet. You're not there yet. And I think the reason you're not there yet is because you need some more time developing those Pisces planets for the next several years. Then I think you're going to know. And then what you're calling healing arts, which is just about everybody I talk to, what you're calling healing arts, I don't think is going to be healing arts. I mean, it may be, but it's going to be more of transitional energies. It's going to be more of spiritual transformation. Here you are talking about joining the TTC. Then your Virgo got involved. Said, no, she can't join till she finishes the book. Why? Well, you got to finish the book. It's not a prerequisite for this class. We don't even talk about the book. We talk about the 7 principles. TTC is a total transformation course by Nook Sanchez and Daniel Boissevan, who are Course in Miracles writers. And the TTC class is online by donation every Thursday morning. It's all over the world being taught, and it's a course that has you identify 7 key principles that stand in your way between you and spiritual attainment. So, did you see how your Virgo got involved with that?
Yeah.
She ain't taking that class. She ain't taking it. When the book's done, then we'll send one. What's the difference? What's the difference? Now, maybe you don't feel right, and that's what you'll do. Fine. Okay? But I think what's happening is I think the spiritual Pisces planets need some more exercise. They need some more understanding. They need some more learning. And as you do that, I think you're going to inadvertently start moving blockages out of the way. Because that part of you that just said she's not taking the class until she finishes that book, that's a blockage.
Yeah, okay.
It's a blockage. Who said that? Whose voice is that?
Wow, maybe my dad's.
That's pretty common. See, and your dad's doing his thing. Let you do yours. See, the Virgo, you got to be very cautious of Virgo planets, everybody. It will turn you into a robot. It's like listening to a Mike Tomlin speech after the Steelers lose. Sun and moon in Pisces, Mr. Tomlin, nice guy, but Venus and Mars in Virgo. He's like a robot talking. Yes, where the fellows that came out today, they didn't work hard enough there, and we'll be working on that next week. And I take all the blockages here, all the excuses and no excuses where you got to put your best foot forward. He's like a robot talking. That's what Virgo planets will do to you. They'll do it to you. And when I look at you, you got shades on and you're smiling and you look like you want to have fun.
Yeah,
So if I were you, I would look for some kind of shaman that's also a fun person. Matter of fact, I don't think you have to look. This whole myth of going to look, you don't have to look for anything. It all finds you. Ask John. John knows. It all finds you, which leads me to thank you for the reading tonight, Teresa. It all leads me to the final thing I wanted to talk about. Thank you very much. I think you're in good shape. The final thing I want to talk about is I was leafing through something yesterday, and this was just unbelievable. And I came across that guy with all those names. Neil, what is his name? Neil, he's a physicist.
Donald Walsh.
No, not Neil. That's
Oh, Neil deGrasse.
Neil
Tyson.
deGrasse Tyson. Neil deGrasse Tyson, an astrophysicist. All right. And I was talking along with the Holy Spirit, et cetera, et cetera. And I felt like I got a direct answer from him through Neil deGrasse. And Neil deGrasse was being interviewed. He's a really pleasant fellow.
Yeah.
Does a lot of astronomical work on PBS, et cetera. He was being interviewed by a guy, and the guy was asking him if he'd ever done DMT. And DMT is like a super, super LSD. And I was real interested in what he had to say. He's, and him being a Libra, and an extremely, unbelievably brilliant Libra. He said, no, I've not done DMT. He said, our brains are barely held together as they are. It's taken millions of years to get our brains to this point. And I'm going to go put this stuff in my brain. This stuff that's untested and wild and crazy and flipped out and, and you could just see his poignancy when he was talking. And I really felt that that was an answer directly to me from the Holy Spirit, that I was asking about things. And the message I got from all that is just simplify all this stuff. I know astrology is really complex, and I can get as complex as anybody because I've been tossing up charts in my mind for so many years. But it was really so poignant to hear him say, let your brain be what it is. Take your time. It's got natural instincts. It's got natural instincts to take you. And I would imagine if we talked to Susan tonight in Seattle, and we'll get our Susan on the road report from her, I would imagine her being, let me get this right here. Let me get you unmuted, Susan. I told you I could put you on a spot at any moment because that's my right. All right. I want to know how many things worked out for Susan on the road just because she's having fun. She's just having fun. Now, how many times do you end up taking the proper turn just because you're having fun? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do. But I GPS everything. But I had
Talking
an
about you,
experience
G.
the other day.
I'm not
where-
talking about you, G. There's no GPS for your soul. I'm talking about having that Sagittarian, lighthearted, let's have fun approach that guides you.
I am flexible.
Yes. And you're taking signals. You're
I
taking
am.
lead from the fun part of you. This
And I'm
is-
adaptable.
Yes,
So if things
that's-
happen that are unexpected,
Yeah.
roll with it.
Yeah. And that's the really glorious, nice part of Sag. That's a really nice part of Sag is going with it. And you, Miss Teresa, have the Virgo and the Sag. You got them both. So have you read our book? Have you read the Exquisite Zodiac?
Yeah, a couple months ago.
Okay, well, I would suggest you read it again and focus on the Virgo chapter and the Sag chapter. You got the Libra part down, but I would focus again on the Virgo part and the Sag part. And remember, they're at a right angle to each other. So they're square to each other. One's about work, one's about having fun. And I think we see each week, Susan's just having all this fun. She's reporting in. Next week, she'll be out in the Aleutian Islands or somewhere in Siberia. You don't know with her, but she's having fun. Okay, everybody, next week, my friend is going to get her, Tracy is her first name. She's going to have her reading done, and there won't be any more mailings or anything until I get off this kick. And this kick is about loosening up people, getting them past their blockages. And Teresa, you cannot say that you'll be past your blockage when you know what you got to, when you'll know where you're going to go. That's not the answer. The answer is be willing to take a look and to reconsider staying trapped. That's the answer. Just be willing. And then the universe just starts doing incredible stuff to support you when they see that you're willing. You're trying to move this big boulder. All of a sudden, there's some dude on the other side that's pushing on the boulder with you. All of a sudden, it starts to move. Another thing I learned recently, I think is interesting. If you find a path, it ain't your path because somebody's already walked it. So your path, you need the machete, go carve your own. Good night, everybody.
Thanks,
See
Rick.
you next week.
Thank you
Thanks,
so
Rick.
much.
Thank you, Rick.
Cool and groovy, and everybody be well.
Good night,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank you, Diane. Thank you, Teresa,
Thank
for
you,
sharing your
everybody.
charts.